Kia ora, welcome back to the Creative Curiosity podcast. Today I wanted to talk about a new approach, I suppose, to making episodes, just to help me make them a bit more consistently. And today I wanted to talk about two videos that I uploaded to social media. One is about learning to say no, and the other one was about simplicity, and I just uploaded that one last night. And I thought this would be a cool opportunity to have a bit of a deep dive into both of those concepts and a bit more of the story behind those short videos. So we'll start with the learning to say no. So the gist of that is about, for me anyway, as an artist and as a creative person, when work starts to feel a bit stale, it starts to feel uninspired, it starts to feel just like a chore, that's a good sign to start to say no. And I remember, in the early days, one of the best things for me, and the best things for any artist, I believe, is to just say yes to everything. Because in the early days, let's imagine you as an artist, and you're a blank canvas, and you're a blank canvas that wants to mean something and that wants to be displayed to the world. And because you've got no paint or no materials, no skill and all of those things, you've got no way to put any beautiful artwork onto this blank canvas, which is you. So in those early days, I think your job is to go out, acquire skills, acquire knowledge, acquire inspiration, acquire a vocabulary of ideas, and to hone and grow and build your imagination. And I think the way that you do that is you do everything. You try stuff that you're not even sure if you're interested in the chance and the hopes that you may get something out of it. You may end up enjoying it. You may end up going down a path that you could never have foreseen. But you'll never know if you never give it a chance. And in those early days, so for me back in high school, there was a period where I was hugely influenced by graffiti. And graffiti, as you all know, is letter form, and its color, its scale, it's using aerosol cans, spray paints to create these works of art. And for me, I didn't know it back then, but that interest and that time that I spent in that world, or being impressed and being influenced by that world, would come in later on. In 2021, when I got into NFTs, and I made my NFT project called Graphgrams, graphs being short for graffiti. And it was a freaking cool time, and it was some of it was a cool time, some of it was a shit time. But that would never have happened if I hadn't experimented with that graffiti interest that I had back in my teens. And then fast forward to my university days, in the early part of it, maybe the first half of my university days, I just wanted to draw and paint cool stuff, or stuff that I thought was cool, and I wasn't really interested in anything outside of that. So I was a bit closed off to the potential, or to my own potential really, and to the potential of these other influences that I hadn't even looked toward. And then in the second half, at the end of that first half, I had a failing experience, which opened me up to receive all of these other different pathways and skills and influences. And I ended up, before I finished uni, so I was there for 3 years, I thought to myself, man, like, why not make the most of this time here? We've got all the facilities here, we've got the tutors and the teachers here, got workshops here. So, like, and I'm paying for it, so why not try everything? And so I tried a bunch of different papers. I did screen printing, I did stop motion animation, and stop motion animation was one of my favorite papers. But I never wanted to try it because it just looked like too much work, which it was. But those papers that I did in animation, they were freaking fun, man. I was chuffed with myself. I used power tools. I learned to build my own canvases and wood panels to paint on and things. I did my first plaster molding using silicone and stuff. So all of these things that I could never have done if I wasn't open to trying new things and trying different things. And then in the tattoo shop, which was around the same time that I was working at, I got into tattooing Japanese, and I freaking loved it. I got hugely influenced by this fella Jeff Gogwe, an American tattoo artist. Influence from the fellas in the shop who I was working with, and it made me want to level up. And I was super hungry at that time to just try everything. Like, I would tattoo everything and anything pretty much. I remember tattooing anything from YCMB on the inner lip, this bit, to little bird tattoos, little rose tattoos that had a bajillion different ideas in it. I just said yes to everything. So that was my accumulation phase. And then I had gotten to a point where my work didn't feel fulfilling anymore. And in 2017 or 2018, one of those years, I was burnt out, like super burnt out. I didn't like tattooing at all. Tattooing of any kind. Didn't like moko, didn't like other tattoos that I do. And I came to the point where I thought, man, I'm not enjoying this. Like, I'm still doing good work, but I think my clients, I think I owe it to my clients to at least be enjoying myself, because if I enjoy myself, I can do my best work, not just good work. And I thought that the best option for me was quitting tattooing. So I did like a public video and everything, and I gave like a year notice to all of my current clients and prospective clients who wanted to get work done from me before I finished. And then that next year got super busy. And bear in mind too, at that time, I didn't really have a super clear process and like terms and conditions and stuff. So a lot of times, one of the aspects that was killing my fulfillment in this space was saying yes to a lot of people's requests. Not just their tattoo requests, but like requests to have all of their whānau there. And I'm an ambivert, so I can be extroverted and introverted. But at the time, I felt like I was just introverted, so I didn't want to have a bunch of people around. But I would still say yes, and then just be super anxious as I was working through all of these jobs, and couldn't wait for them to be finished and for everyone to just get out. So all of those things accumulated into me wanting to make that decision to stop. And then I eventually got to the point where, or the date that I was going to stop, which was around August or September 2018, I think. And then I just stopped posting. I still tattooed. I ended up changing my mind from quitting to slowing down and working less, tattooing less, and leaving space to do other creative things, like getting into this, like video stuff. I think I bought my first camera, which was this one here. This was my first proper, like, professional camera I bought, $10,000. And then I got into like making videos and things. I realized that the solution wasn't burning the boats, and I had that in my mind because I went to Tony Robbins in 2017. Burn the boats, give myself no option but to succeed in this next thing that I did. But the reason that failed for me is I didn't have something else to go into. So that was never going to work for me. I ended up slowing down, and I created a more clear-cut process. So I think I changed my price. It ended up being $1,500 minimum, regardless of what you get. If you want a dot, it's $1,500. So I had a clear price. I think at the time I only did moko because moko didn't require me to do any design work beforehand. I could just freehand you on the day. So I didn't do atua stuff, no realism stuff, no lettering, purely just moko. I only worked weekdays, I'm pretty sure. No weekend work. It was deposit, can't remember how much the deposit was, maybe 200 or something. Was it still support people? I think it was still support people. I might have taken it out. So I tidied up my process. And then, man, it was a breath of fresh air. I got to just work on people who were cool, who there were no muck around tie kickers anymore. Because as soon as you say this is the minimum price, people know, oh yeah, cool, this is someone who I'm happy to pay that much for, or someone that I'm not happy to pay that much for, and then I will go to someone else, which was cool because it just sorted out who was keen and who wasn't keen to get done from me, which made the process easier. Instead of me trying to pander and bring my T's and C's down to where they were at, I had the standard that was here, my T's and C's, and if they're willing to come and meet me there, then we've got a cool start of a collaboration that we could do. So that made me enjoy my work way more. Doing it less, that was cool. And I started enjoying it again for the first time in years. Like years before that, I was over it. I didn't like it. And then since then, I've just kept refining my process. And so now I charge $1,700 minimum. And that's for a 7-hour session. Start at 9 o'clock. And that session can go up to 4 o'clock. If we finish anywhere in there, even if we finish at 12 o'clock, it's still going to be $1,700. And then if I go any time over that, it's an extra $150 an hour. So that's what it currently is. The dream would be to get to a point where I tattoo even less. And I tattoo only those like jobs that are bloomin' singing out to me like, yeah man, that's a job that you have to do. And on people who are cool, people who I love to be around. Because man, there's some people who I've met along this journey of tattooing and they're freaking cool, man. So coming across that many people who are choice wouldn't have happened if I hadn't refined their process, if I hadn't learned to say no, and if I had just kept saying yes to everyone. So that's pretty much my journey of learning how to say no. And then moving on to the next video that I made, which was about simplicity, which kind of goes a little bit hand in hand. I started tattooing in 2006, and you've no idea. I had no idea what I was up to. I was still only a teenager. And I remember when I discovered the East Coast style of moko. I think it was from the bro Sai, who's a moko artist, Uhiwero, and he's done all of my moko. And I think I remember when I seen that, I was just like, whoa, like that stuff is crazy. And it was super, super detailed. And then I saw because he was studying at Toihokura at the time, saw some of his paintings, and it was super detailed and like mind altering. And then I saw some more East Coasty fellas like Nutty Brooking and freaking, I remember Sai showing me his website, and it was at the Ahure 2007, I think, or 2009. One of them, 2000, whatever it was. Freaking had my brain splattered all over the floor. Couldn't get over it. Stuff was crazy. And then, so I was like, okay. How I interpreted, I was still young. How I interpreted, or what I thought was successful about their moko, and what I thought was attractive and unique about their moko was the detail. So my brain went, okay, more detail equals better. So I just went hyper detailed, tried to put every single pattern I could think of and fathom, made up heaps of patterns. I was like, yeah, the more patterns in this moko, the better. If there aren't enough patterns, it's not good enough. So I went on that for years, just making it as detailed as I could. Even in when I branched out into tattooing non-Māori stuff like Japanese stuff and atua stuff and illustrative stuff, comic book stuff, my mentality was still the same. The more detailed, the better. So I kept beating that horse and tattooed all of the super detailed stuff. And then where did I get to? I'm trying to remember or pinpoint the exact spot that I got to when I realized I should strip back. I think it might have been around 20. I'm pretty sure it was around the time when I decided to pull back. So like 2018, 19 maybe. When I ended up slowing down, I think that was the point. And then I started thinking about having longer flowing lines, having less craziness. And then I started to think about the concept of using the anatomy to dictate how the moko could look. So there was a period where I started doing these kept shoulder things where it'll be a face maybe, or like a koruru or feku or something up here on the shoulder, and it'll usually always round out like that, or come down. And that was just to frame the shoulder, and that became like like the main focal point of a sleeve. If people came and got sleeves, or if they got forearms, I would do like a focal point on the inner forearm and taper down into the wrist. So I used all of those sorts of concepts and ideas to influence my moko, and that was all stuff that I had learned during that accumulation phase that I was talking about when I was at uni. And I could even think about stuff from high school and even earlier that influenced this new stuff that I was doing now. I learned about contrast and the importance and the power of contrast from Jeff Gogwe. So when I would do moko, I would have, let's say I had that focal point here, and I didn't want the focus to be taken away from here, or I didn't want other areas to contend with it. So I'll make that different, and then I'd make the rest of it pretty simple and same. So it'd have like puhoro flows and whatever else. And the whole point was, or one of the main points for me was, as the person looking at it, I wanted you to know straight away which part was the most important part, and I wanted the rest of it to be complementary to that important part. I didn't want there to be, there's this cool looking face over there, and then there's some other crazy patterns over here, and then some other crazy patterns over here, and not knowing, like there being no visual hierarchy, not knowing which thing to look at. So yeah, that started coming into my practice. I would use leading lines, which is something I learned when I bought that camera, and I devoured YouTube. That's the reason I bought that camera. I naturally learned about cinematography and composition, which is stuff that I had learned at Wintec in uni. But I heard it reiterated again during that phase of accumulating cinematography knowledge. Leading lines being one of them. So I'd think, so if this is the focal point, you've got all of this arm, how can I create leading lines to lead the viewer's eye through the piece? Either starting from that focal point or starting from the furthest point away, like the wrist. How can I create some lines that flow up through the arm, and you have complementary flows that sort of subconsciously act as arrows that point the viewer up to here, which is the most important part. So yeah, and then I remember being excited about my mahi. I was like, man, I felt like I had stumbled across a gold mine of an approach to moko, and I hadn't seen it done before. How I had seen moko before predominantly was, regardless where on the body, you just put moko there, put ko whaiwhai and moko patterns on that body part, and not necessarily respond to it. Like, there were some that responded to it, but by and large, it was you just put moko on a spot. And I had gotten to this point where I was like, far out of this, how does no one else already do this? Like, it felt like it was super obvious to me. Like, oh, this felt like the natural progression to end up here. Leading lines, anatomy, contrast, focal point, all of those things. And so my mahi got super exciting after that. And then I started to find my own voice, as I said in the video. And that was quite liberating. It was motivating, vindicating. It was vindicating for sure. Because I believe if you're a creative and you're an artist through and through, it's not enough to just make good work. I think you want to make good work that is also your own. Like, you don't want to just make good work that could have been done from someone else. So that's where I got to, and then now I feel like I'm at another point like that. That Graphgrams experience, the beginning of it felt like it was another pivotal shift, but it didn't turn out that way. That NFT space ended up being quite ugly, I think. And then now I'm at a point where I'm excited about the things I'm making. I feel like I'm finding more of my own voice. So with those videos that I've been making on social media, they combine a bunch of different things. Like the latest video, the simplicity one, it's a bit poetic, and I got a message from someone who said I should do poetry, and I was like, bro, I appreciate that, because I actually like poetry, and I've done poetry before. And yeah, this is a way to implement another thing that I learned during my accumulation phase, like I was saying. So it's full circle again. I hope this is illustrating the point that I'm trying to make. And my cinematography stuff, learning to implement those. I'm learning to sort of structure my creative process so it's not just willy-nilly, because it's mostly like that most of the time. And yeah, it's exciting. It makes me want to get up early, stay up late. Like, I've been staying up late. I stayed up late last night making that simplicity video. And the money is starting to trickle in and illustrate this shift. Again, being reinforced by being firm with my T's and C's in my process. So I think the gist of what I was trying to say, or what I want to say today, is figure out where you are in your creative journey. If you're in the accumulation phase, that's a cool place to be, because there's plenty of opportunity out there. Just say yes to everything and use them as opportunities to upskill, to level up your knowledge, and just know that even if right now you think, oh man, that's useless to me, like those skills and that knowledge, just know that maybe one day in the future that stuff could come in handy, but you can only know in hindsight. So that's one. Number 2 is through that accumulation and through that experimentation phase and exploring your genuine curiosity, which I haven't even talked about, but exploring your genuine curiosity, I think eventually you'll find different aspects of your different interests, and they can combine to make something unique and new that is your own. So yeah. Sure, hope that makes sense. If you enjoyed this episode and you're an artist, please drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what kind of artist you are, what you're interested in creatively, and who's an artist that you look up to and why. Cheer, creative curiosity out.